has all kinds of guests. And our guest today is someone that some of you already know, but all of you should know and will know by the end of this hour. Three Singing Eagles, welcome to our show. How are you
That's a
today?
sweet welcome.
Well, you know, Three Singing Eagles has been involved in so many things. She's been involved down at Akaku, Maui Community Television, doing television. But in fact, that's not the first time you were doing television, yes?
Right. Yeah, I was on one of the first public access stations ever.
Really?
Back when public access was really, really radical and we had almost no equipment and it was pretty far out.
Wow, where was that?
Yeah, in Ithaca, New York.
Ithaca. That's like Cornell.
Cornell and Ithaca College, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Cornell is more science-oriented and Ithaca College is more film and TV and the arts.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you...
But it's a very cool town, very progressive. We had, you know, a food co-op back then. Yeah, yeah.
That's a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And there is mandatory recycling in Ithaca, and it has been that way, I believe, for over 10 years. And the city picks up the recyclables at the curbside.
Well, we're going to take that lesson here soon, aren't we? Aren't we? Yeah, Maui is probably a place where many things we're leaders in and many things we're followers. We should follow the good ideas and examples of places all around the world. You know. Well,
yeah, like Amsterdam would be a good place. Maybe the whole United States to take their example, at least as far as medical care goes.
how's that?
That anyone can walk into a doctor and get treated, even if you're a foreigner or whatever. You don't have to show a card or anything. Everybody can have health care as far as it's concerned. If you're a human being, you deserve to have health care.
I like that thought.
That's very cool. Yeah.
So, we're here today to really share about your newest journey. You are ready to embark on a journey where? I'll let you
Where?
tell.
Well, I'll be going to the United States, starting in San Francisco and going down the coast, then across country towards Florida as far as I can go, collecting stories of people who feel that they've been forgotten in this country. And I sincerely hope to be able to, whoever our president shall be, deliver it to our president, these cassette tapes of the voices of the forgotten people in this country on Inauguration Day, or perhaps even before that if possible. And I heard the candidates a lot during the presidential election talking about the rich and the middle class, but there's a lot of other people in this country. And it's very interesting as I've prepared for this journey that I've found out that actually in the middle class and the rich, there are many people that feel forgotten. And most of us are aware that we're just one paycheck away from being destitute, homeless, losing everything, going down into a downward spiral. You know, you hear stories. For instance, I heard a story last week of a woman who was a nurse for 21 years, and 25 years is a pension. They just fired her.
Wow.
So she has to sell her house. She doesn't know what she's going to do. 21 years in the same place as a nurse. We need to remember each other now. We need to become more human, it seems. And I, for myself, am working to take the beam out of my own eye before I tend to take anyone's splinter out. You know, I want to be the first person to pledge to become more completely human and to treat other people as human beings. I consider myself really progressive, but it amazes me daily how many prejudices even I have. And right now I'm just working on dropping as many of them as possible, to see people that I've demonized, or maybe I've put on a pedestal, or separated from me in any way as human beings. We're all human beings. We have hearts, we have feelings, we laugh, we cry, all of us. It doesn't matter how you can try to remove someone from you. Say they're in the oil cartel or the Trilateral Commission or in with the World Bank, or any way you want to demonize them or separate them, or maybe only your religion goes to heaven and they're from a different religion, or just the ways we separate ourselves from each other. As I'm upset about it and the effect on my life, when people put me into a category or treat me as separate or less than human, I'm finding myself looking at my own ability to be a human. So that's what I'm working on, you know, in my own soul. But basically what this journey is, Jason, is that I will be quiet. I'll have a little card and say I am, on the front of my shirt it'll say the listener, and I will not be telling my story or talking about myself at all, except anonymously on the tapes, as I ask everyone else to do. And I will be asking people to not tell their name, but to just tell their story. On the back of my wheelchair, I'll be taking a wheelchair with me, will be a big sign saying, "Are you forgotten?" with a question mark. And I figure if anyone stops me and asks me about it, then I can give them my card, and I bet they have a story.
I'm sure.
And so I'm going to collect those stories, and I have one of my good friends here who is involved in human rights movements, has many connections to people who are not afraid to approach authority, who are involved in the human rights movement, and who can deliver the tape should anything happen to me along the way. And I'll be sending the tapes periodically, you know, those $3.20 priority envelopes. I'll just fill them until I can stuff them full, seal them, and send them as they get full. And so,
So this journey is beginning soon.
it's beginning very soon, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to another island here in the chain first to prepare and to test my equipment, because I've looked at this. I got this book, Lonely Planet USA, which if anybody is traveling anywhere, the Lonely Planet series seems to be really worthy. And they also have a website, so you can also download a lot of your a lot of stuff for free. It's www.lonelyplanet.com, and that address will be also in the credits, in the closing credits at the end of the show.
Right.
Right?
You bet.
Cool. And it looks like, see, I have never been to this part of the country. I received this vision to do this, and there's a lot of very scary things about this. You know, it's like jumping off a cliff. It's such a leap of faith. And it looks like from some of the maps in here and from what people have told me, there's like the Sierra Mountains, and that it gets cold in the desert at night. And so this should be a very interesting journey.
How are you traveling?
I'm traveling by wheelchair. And I'll be pulling the wheelchair, and it's going to have my stuff in it, and then I'll be able to sit down and listen to people in it, and also sit down and rest along the journey. Because I'm just about 7 months pregnant now, or 6.5 months pregnant.
I was going to say.
And so at first I wanted to bag out of the journey when I found out I was pregnant. I received the vision at Powella Point while watching for these certain planets that were rising, and astronomy. I was following the stars every night at a certain time to see how they progressed at that time. So I was there in the evening after doing my Tai Chi exercises and stuff and watching the stars to see which ones rose at this time. Received this vision to go and do this journey, you know. So it's finals week at MCC, where I was going at the time. So when finals week was over, I started a fast, and I fasted for between 2 and 2.5 months. Right in the middle of there, I went up the mountain, up Haleakala, walked up 6,700 feet to where there's a nice cave, and stayed in the cave for 3 days and 3 nights and did not even drink water. And then fasted on water for, you know, the other month. There was like a month and change on each side. and got ready for the journey. And I'm going along and going along, and then different physical signs started showing me that I was impossibly pregnant, which I should not be able to have gotten pregnant for many years now. I have not been able to get pregnant. I've been
Why?
beyond that period of time. I mean, I'm a grandmother, for God's sake. I've got 2 grandkids that'll be older than this kid. And, you know, I was already done. I was in the time of wise woman, you know, the crone, menopausal, you know, done, pow, finished. Sounds like a Monty Python skit or something, yes? But anyway, surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yep.
And boy, did I want to bag out of this journey. But you know, I've lost everything. I've lost my home, I've lost my children, I've lost my hope, everything. And I'm ready to do this journey. I've received this vision. And finding out I was pregnant, I got some good jobs in video on the mainland, and I thought, I gotta get a job. You know, I've got to send money to support my other children. I've got to support this baby. I've got to find a nice nest. You know, this is crazy. I was going to do a Dick Gregory journey. That's why I fasted. I was going to just do sprouts, you know, and walk. And now I'm pregnant. What am I going to do? You know, and on top of that, I had surgery on my womb many years ago that makes it so that the scar is right at the bottom and the baby is leaning on the scar, and I'm in excruciating pain all the time. It's like, this is insane. It's insane to go on this journey. And each time I felt that and wanted to bag out, which was many times, by the way, something terrible would happen. You know, someone would attack me that I was staying with, or my car would break down in the middle of nowhere, and or just crazy things. And I began to see that I had to do this journey, and that actually the idea of being pregnant really makes this a lot better journey in a lot of ways, you know, because how much more benign and accessible to the president could there be? What kind of person in the entire planet could be more easily accepted than a woman right pregnant with child who's alone and has no home and is wandering and is bringing these voices? I mean, you know, who else would the president let in? I'm not some angry rebel. I'm not even just some, you know, single woman walking across the country making some statement. You know, here I am, a human being with a life growing inside me saying, this is our future. We need to remember everyone in this country. You're the symbolic father of our country. That's the way I was raised, that the president is the symbolic father of our country. So the forgotten among us, are we not just as much his children as those that he might praise, say, oh, these are assets to our country because they make a lot of gross national product for us, and they do real good, and they stimulate the economy and pay their taxes? How about those of my children who are forgotten? Aren't they as much my children? In fact, maybe more? I don't know. It's all a mystery to me. But what I do know is that I must go on this journey. And so I go forth. Who knows what will happen?
Wow. I know that all of us here in Maui who have known and shared with you find you to be full of life, full of, what do they call it, spit and vinegar. You got a lot to say, and always do everything with a real passion, you know. So I know I'm very excited about your journey, because I know that there are a lot of people that feel forgotten. I see them here all the time, you know. They seem to slip through the cracks. It's so important that we all realize that we're really all one family, and that If one of my brothers or sisters is hurting, then I'm hurting. And when we put up gates and walls, that's so symbolic in all these houses of people trying to separate themselves from each other and feel like they're better than others and they have, and so as long as their family, their group has, then they're fine. When in fact, anyone who needs is family, you know. And we have a lot of people here who recognize that, and I really think that your journey to share that with the president and through these tapes and through that you're doing to share it with the world is a major statement. A hero for sure.
Well, I don't know so much if I'm a hero. You know, I'm very reluctant to do this trip, and I'm only motivated by a great sorrow in my own soul. And, you know, there are two parts to this. Just like John F. Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for your country, or what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You know, to me, this journey signifies ask what your country can do for you, or stop doing, so that people cannot be forgotten in the way that you have been. And also, how can we help each other as human beings, not dependent on the government? How can we start? Because, you know, as you had mentioned, the gated communities, it made me think of how much we are afraid of each other. And even when you talk about the idea of helping and supporting each other, we're afraid of being taken advantage of. We're afraid of opening our heart and having it get broken. We're afraid of talking to someone on the beach because they're drinking a quart of beer at 9 in the morning and they look disheveled and they're old. I remember once I was on Lipoa Street at the beach at the end there, and there was a man at about 9:15, 9:30 in the morning drinking a quart of beer from a paper bag, bleary-eyed, looking disheveled, an old man in a ripped up, you know, torn and battered t-shirt.
Right.
And we struck up a conversation, and this man was amazing. He was in the Korean War, and he helped Korean War veterans that were half and half, half American and half Korean, that were literally tortured by everyone in the country. They were like undesirables or whatever. He found a way to get them adopted, and he fell in love with a woman there and married her, and she had died, and he wept on the beach. He wept to me on the beach. This is a human being we're talking about. And how many people would look at him in hatred? There was a woman in Florida who Al Gore talked to that many of you guys might have seen. This woman could have been my grandmother. This woman worked her whole life at the same job in an auto factory. She retired. She has so many pharmaceutical drugs that are so expensive that she has to choose between either paying for her pharmaceutical drugs on her pension and Social Security, either paying for her drugs or food above rent and utilities. She doesn't have enough for both. And so she goes in Florida for 2 to 3 hours a day, at least, sometimes 4, 7 days a week. And she collects cans to recycle, to sell, so she can get enough money for her food or for her prescription medicine. So we're not just talking about, oh, those homeless vets on the beach. If you try to separate it, oh, it's those crazies, oh, it's the alcoholics, no, it's everybody. Everybody is being forgotten, and we need to remember each other as human beings. And if I get to see the president, when I present him with these tapes, I'm going to, in front of him, be the first one to pledge to remember that I am human and to do everything I can from that moment for the rest of my life to be a complete human being and to help every other human being that I see and meet, period.
I see that you do that now. But I appreciate that pledge. I know that I try to do my very best to help everyone. And I know here in Maui we sure are blessed because there seem to be a lot of angels around here who may not have very much, but they know how to share and help others, you know. I think our president needs to hear that message, you know.
It would be good for him to hear some of the ways people are falling through the cracks. That is definitely true, you know, and what I'm learning through this journey has become very surprising to me. And one of the things that I've been hearing from those who have felt that they have been abandoned and forgotten is that often when you're in trouble, when you've become homeless or addicted to a substance or in some other way are going through crisis, that a lot of people will now approach you with some kind of psychobabble as far as it seems. That is so opposite compassion. The whole idea of uniting the word tough with love, it does not seem to be working. It hurts people. If someone has a broken leg, do you go over and kick the damn leg when it's still broken? Not normally. If someone has a broken soul, do you go over and kick them? Do you say, get off the pity pot? Oh, it must be your karma. Why don't you think positive thoughts? Do you know that there are people who have been sharing their stories with me before this journey who have told people out loud, I feel that I want to kill myself. I feel I have nothing else to live for. How many times have you heard people, after someone commits suicide, saying, I wish they would have told me. I wish I would have known. And do you know what kind of response every single person has had? Oh, that's a cop-out. That's the easy way out. Oh, stop that. You're just trying to get attention. I think we need to make a decision. It seems that way, and I'll see further when I collect these stories, but I think we need to make a decision. Either we're going to be compassionate or we're not. And compassion is not telling someone to get off the pity pot or analyzing them or doing any of that psycho stuff. When they're hurting, when their soul is broken, at least let their soul heal and then put your karma theories and all that stuff up. When someone is down, all that does is hurt them. And it seems that most people who are in that situation say, please, either be compassionate towards me or don't say anything at all. And we'll see what kind of patterns emerge, Jason. I'll be keeping a journal through the journey as well. And
I
of
hope
course,
as you're able to be in touch with the computer,
yes.
you know, you're welcome to send things. And can we get messages to you anyhow?
Yeah, there'll be an email address and also a homepage address at the end of this, and I'll be sending stuff to Jason, and he might or might not put it on the homepage. But, you know, that's another thing, to be able to live our life relaxed. See, I think another part of it, to be fair to all of us, is that when we say we want to help someone, they then hold us to that promise and get pissed off at us if we don't keep that promise. We need to be a little bit more relaxed with each other, and then we won't be so afraid to offer help. You know, if you offer to help someone with their car, and then a friend of yours breaks their leg, let's get that break a leg thing. I love drama. But anyway, say a friend of yours breaks a leg, you should be able to feel comfortable calling up the person who you were going to help with the car and saying, look, I know I was going to be there in an hour to help you with the car, but my friend next door just broke his leg and I'm going to take him to the hospital. And to feel pretty confident and relaxed that your friend will go, "Aole pilikia." No problem. You know, I think we need to be a little bit more relaxed with each other as well, you know, to encourage us to be human with each other, because then we will make an environment that will cause us to be more free to make those offers. We won't feel so tense that now we're bound to them and we got to put them in our appointment book. It's like, hang loose. I think here in Hawaii, people have a real good opportunity to do that. With the Aloha principle, the principle of lokahi, harmony, and of ohana, family. And many people have said these have just become concepts. It doesn't seem that way. And by the way, the good news is, and I'll keep you posted, but it seems that we are hooking up more and more as human beings. It's almost like a quiet revolution. Remember that random acts of kindness thing that went on for a couple of years because some lady wrote a poem on a napkin in a restaurant or whatever the theory was, you know, and it just got picked up? Or how about that recent movie, Pay It Forward? People are starting to have these silent revolutions, saying, you know, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, right? Is that the way it goes, you know? And we can change that. It doesn't matter what they, you know, even with these conspiracy theories and big brothers and separatism, it's like we're going into the stage where the separatism is almost necessary to cause a revolution, almost like it's almost necessary in adolescence to get pissed off at your parents so that you get out of the nest, you know. And not always, but almost, you know. And sometimes it seems repeatedly in history there needs to be discontent to cause a revolution. And this seems to be some kind of revolution of humanity that I've seen where people are becoming more human with each other and more compassionate and less stink talk. Negative gossip and stink talk, by the way, seems to be a major hurt. A lot of the stories I've heard already, whole families and marriages and communities and friendships of lifelong times have been broken up by negative gossip, sometimes none of it true. I think it's a good idea. You know, most of us were lucky enough to have a grandma, and most of our grandmas said, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. I think that was really good grandma advice.
Good grandma advice.
You know, I would tend to say, to be a little bit more real, if you don't have something nice to say, if you have something difficult to say it in a nice way. You can always do it. It takes a little more imagination sometimes. It's easier to just do your diary of the mouth. But if you think for a minute and say, look, you know, I really feel like I got to tell this friend, look, I almost drank myself to death and I see you doing that. How can I say that in a positive way without being judgmental or high and mighty or whatever? And it takes a few minutes and a little imagination, but I've found that it is really possible to speak to another person like a human being instead of like someone separate from you. Just takes practice. You know, but I think the first thing seems to be, as far as if you want to do something just today, to stop hurting each other and to stop blowing, you know, relationships, they're not disposable. How precious is a friend, a mother, a brother, a cousin, for God's sake, to let stink talk or gossip or even a real thing get in between a strong relationship like that?
I agree.
It's quite a waste. So if you do one thing today, it seems that most of the people have either their problem has been caused by or further hurt and exasperated by stink talk and negative gossip somewhere along the way, and that seems to be a chief poison that is causing people to even slip further into despair. So that when you start losing something and this occurs to you, this constant criticism and this judgmentalness, you know, it would be like saying to a cancer patient who's been praying to God or putting light in their body and the cancer progresses, you must not be close to God because your cancer's progressing. You know, come on. Bernie Siegel, I remember going into a tirade about that. You know, when someone is down, when someone is ill, when someone is struggling, to pull out that kind of statement can often make them lose their spirit. And if they lose their spirit, they're going to slip further down. And that's a waste. Any human being, like you were saying earlier, just one human being lost is like a heavy burden on my heart. You know, when we say that this is a great country, I think if there's one person that is forgotten, one person that's in despair, how can we call ourselves great? How can we?
You know, you've always been very sensitive and aware of other people. I guess things are welling up in you, aren't they? You're very close to the surface with your emotions. Yeah.
That's part of why I want to remain silent and listen. I know I'll be crying a lot during these stories, but it's time for me to listen to other people's pain and know I'm not alone. And they'll know that they're not alone.
Well, I know you'll be in Journey. Is there anything that all of us can do to be helpful and supportive of you?
Be more human to each other. Love one another. Don't forget each other. Reach out wherever you can. That person next to you in the shopping line at the supermarket, they have stories you wouldn't believe. Every one of us is special. We are all incredible.
That is so true. It's amazing, as we consistently find out when we speak to people, like you say. You spoke to a guy with a paper bag and some beer in it at 9 in the morning. But there are so many people. The reason that they're in whatever conditions they're in are from life experiences, and we really have to realize that and drop our fear and realize there, but for the grace of God, go I. And how can we do anything but offer our help? Help in whatever fashion it takes.
It's such a good point because, you know, again, that whole psychobabble thing that I feel is being used as a way to keep us from feeling compassion and keeping us separate. The whole idea of there is no victim, there are victims. Okay, if a woman is raped, she is a victim. If a person's house burns to the ground, they're a victim. They didn't bring it on themselves. I don't believe that. And even if it's true, if I'm wrong, and the people who have religious or spiritual or whatever the hell philosophies that say it's your karma, you brought it on yourself, everything that happens in your life you're responsible for, if they're right and I'm wrong, then fine. But I'll tell you, I see it damaging a lot of people, that kind of talk. When somebody has had something terrible happen to them, they're a victim. Sometimes things happen to you, and you do not call or bring them on. Perhaps in some cosmic theory or cosmic realm, there's a lesson, you know, and I've learned a lot of my best lessons. I did not learn in kindergarten. I learned when I was going to hell and back quite a few times. Whenever I've been to hell and back, I've learned some great lessons, yes. But the thing is, when someone has something terrible happen to them, they have something terrible happen to them. It's not, they did not ask for it. Or to automatically assume that is just ridiculous.
And even if
I
they
believe.
were asking for it, that's still no reason for us to not be there in compassion and help how we can. You know?
Or if we
Sometimes
feel that
cause is
way,
not even the issue. You know, or if we feel that way,
turn around and walk away. Don't go attack somebody who has been victimized. If you don't believe they have been, just turn and walk away. That would be my suggestion. If you can't be a help, don't do anything at all.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So are you going to have any kind of supplies on your journey? You taking anything with you?
Some food and sleeping bag and a poncho.
Tape recorder and batteries and tapes.
Right. Yeah, and a digital camera, and I'm going to take a picture at sunrise every day, and I write every morning, usually for an hour, hour and a half every morning. I have for
Wow.
about 7 or 8 years. It's called The Morning Pages. It's from The Artist's Way by Judy Cameron, or Julie Cameron.
Right.
And so I'm going to write my morning pages, but it'll be the journey of my sunrises. And I'll take a picture of the sunrise every day, as long as I can.
Let me ask you a question that many of you might ask. This is Three Singing Eagles. How did you get that name?
I got that name from a vision quest. Yes, I was trained as a medicine woman, as an herbologist and a midwife as my chief trainings, but you kind of learn, it's kind of like a general practitioner before naturopaths, you know. And so at the end you usually have a vision quest, which is kind of like a graduation ceremony. And general procedure is you draw a circle and you fast for a number of days and nights. You might do sweat baths or sweat lodges. And then you have your vision quest. You go up, draw the circle, sit in it, and something that is extremely frightening will come and try to drive you out of the circle, and you got to stay in the circle. And if you don't, then you don't get to practice, and you train for like at least 20 to 30 years, usually from the time you're born. So, you know, you got one chance, and if you blow it, you really blow it. At least from the lineages I understand, from the one I had, and I almost blew it. How I didn't is beyond me. It's a funny story, but we won't tell it here. But anyway, it was, yes, it's the name from my vision quest, and I will be dropping my name. I will have no name on this journey, and because I'm asking everybody to give their stories anonymously, and I also will be recording my story as well along the way, and so I will be anonymous as well. I will be losing my name, and in the old way, I have treated this as a death. I have given away everything that I own, and as if I was going to die. And I'm approaching the journey that way. I'm dying to myself. I'm going to be nobody. I will be a basket, a vessel to collect these stories. Because the only way out of my sorrow, which is so, so deep now, it is beyond belief, is to listen to other people's sorrows and to collect theirs. And so I'm going to shut my mouth for a change and listen. And perhaps I will get a little bit of perspective on my own pain. But I do deeply suspect that there will be a lot of tears along the way, and a lot of holding of hands, and looking in the eyes of another person. You know, I do believe, and I do suspect, if we look anybody in the eyes for even 2 or 3 minutes, but say a full 5 to 10 minutes, just sit there and look each other in the eyes. You don't even have to hold hands, but boy, that amps the medicine. They can't be inhuman to us. They're no longer separate. I don't think any two people could do that and not connect as human beings. Now, that's the whole idea. It's time for us to connect as human beings, or decide we don't want to, but not to harm. Either be a help or nothing. But we got to stop harming each other. It seems that way. I don't know anything, and all I'm speaking about now, and all I'll be speaking about on the journey is what I'm hearing from the people. And hopefully I can be a good listener, and that when I do open my mouth to give any message, if anyone asks me what trends I'm seeing, what stories I'm hearing, that I can be a mouthpiece for them. and not have any of me involved. And that's why this symbolic death has to occur. I have to really remove myself completely. And that's not easy. Even though I tend to see myself as a somewhat hip, egoless person, you know, I think we're all at least a little bit self-absorbed, huh? So this should be a very interesting medicine for me. And when I'm on the neighbor island for the 2 weeks getting ready for the journey, I will be practicing silence and practicing listening and getting ready, because I don't want to just jump into this journey and expect myself to be very good at listening from the beginning. And once I get there and these people are telling me their stories and opening their raw hearts to me, I want to be there for them. And I understand that I've got some work to do on myself before that, just to prepare. But I'm pretty close. You know, I understand now why this vision came to me, because I've been prepared in a lot of ways in my life, both through my shamanic training and very practical training as a home health aide, and having hospice care come in and train us home health aides. We would go in with people who were close to death or who needed help at home because they were disabled. And one of the main things we were to do while we were puttering around and making meals for the week or cleaning or sorting their medication or whatever was on our roster as our mechanical duty, we were there to listen to them. Do they have any pains that they're not telling their nurse about? Is there anything emotionally going on? We would be there as the listeners, and often these people would see us as friends and know that we were there to listen to them, and would tell us things that they would not tell these starched white professionals who come in for 15, 20 minutes to change their oxygen or whatever.
Right.
And so I've been really blessed through many different workshops and trainings and everything in my life to actually learn listening skills. So I do have the tools. Having the self-restraint is quite another thing, but there's something else you can do. If you're the praying type, say a little prayer in my regard that I can keep my mouth shut, get rid of myself, really die before this journey to myself, and go there as a listener and do it well. If you want to either pray or keep a good thought, as the Native Americans say.
Or do a little
Much
writing every day.
appreciated.
Do a little writing every day. Get up and appreciate your life. You know, to get up and appreciate the good things. As much challenge as we sometimes see in our own lives and around us, make it a point to stop and make a list, even if it's to ourselves, of the good things. Pick out some good things to bring into your day and really appreciate. We here on Maui are very blessed, you know, and when things are going wrong or a challenge for me in my life, I've come to really appreciate that before I start crying the blues, I ought to look at all the blessings that I have in my life, you know.
There's some simple-ass things, too. Okay? Now, if you've had, and I've been through this experience, if you've had a life where you've pretty consistently, actually very consistently, had a hot shower your entire life, always, and suddenly you have no shower, you have no home, you got no money, and you got no home.
That's right.
Well, that's a little bit more extreme. Just say that you have no hot shower. Oh my goodness, do you appreciate that next hot shower? And when you have a regular hot shower again, you'll bless it. So maybe, Jason, those are the little things that you can bless today. Just think about, you know, what was that song back in the 70s?
Well,
Reasons to be Grateful, Part 3. And they listed all these crazy little things that are reasons to be thankful. That was it. Reasons to be thankful, Part 3.
and if you have a difficult time in envisioning it, go camping and then come home. Right? All of you that have homes. We hope most of you have homes. In fact, all of you. You know,
Yes.
I'm not journeying, sometimes you see my interviews, you see them. I'm digging in and bringing all kinds of ideas up of all kinds of stuff. Um, I'm doing my very best to listen to you, because I honor you. I recognize in you, and I've always recognized in you, your compassion for people and compassion for all people. You know, um, I've known you some years now, I guess, huh?
Since the beginning of Mama.
Since the beginning of Mama. Mama, Maui Arts and Music Association. It is not by chance that that name got created, because it was going to be arts and music with a purpose. Arts and music and Maui and an association of arts and music with a purpose. And I just kept fiddling
Mm-hmm.
until I got Mama, knowing that Mama really means Mother Earth. And it also means all of us together. I really, really believe that if we learn to share our hearts and share what we have, there is no excess. When we have excess and we hoard it, there's someone else that could benefit from what we think is excess or leftover. It's not leftover. There's someone else that needs it, whether it's a physical thing or whether it's an emotional thing, to have compassion and caring for another human being. Many people profess that they have feelings and compassion for everyone. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a real good rule. What can you do today to help someone else? That movie Pay It Forward that we talked about,
Mm.
okay? I found that's sort of the way I hope that I've been living. I know I see it in you and the way you've been living. That it is really something that will change the world if we learn to give. And learn to give doesn't always have to be money, but it's our time or our listening. How very, very important to be able to listen. And, these words, sometimes people think, oh, they're soft. I think it's important for people to recognize being gentle is not weak. Being gentle and being compassionate is strong. The gentle giants of the world are those that can reach out and care about someone else. And a lot of you out there do. Don't get me wrong. I recognize there's a lot of goodness and giving in the world. But there are so many people that just find a hard time, like you say, in seeing someone that's going through a struggle. They create all kinds of thoughts of why that person's that way, and all they have to do is get a job, and all they have to do is this, and all they have to do is that. Maybe so. But a little bit of sensitivity and caring, and not ripping them down, and not trying to make them feel more diminished. Sometimes people feel like they want to feel senior to a situation. Really, we are that close, all of us, from some life change. Someone gets a health problem, they live in a big house, they got all the money in the world, they think, and suddenly their life changes. Or like you say, someone who's working for a company for 25 years, and now they've got a pension, and just living and getting food and prescription is a major deal. I don't think it's beyond any of us to hold in our hearts that we're going to do something for each other right now. We're going to be more thoughtful and conscious of each other right now. Right now. Right now. You.
And let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be afraid. We were talking about the fears. I mean, shoots, I've been burned before. I've had people come in my house and stay and just keep on staying, or, ate all my food or didn't do their dishes. You know what? I've burned soup a couple of times. I still make soup. If you get your heart broken once, are you never going to open your heart again? If you have one person take advantage of you, are you never going to extend yourself again? It's going to be a long stretch in life, because early on somebody's going to do that to you. I was recently reading a book by Leo Buscaglia, and he said that some people say, aren't you afraid to open your heart to everybody like that? And he said, I'm afraid to not. And sure, I've had my heart broken. I've had my heart shattered to bits. And I am going to risk loving you. And I don't care. I'm not going to let it defeat me. One bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, yeah. No, but I have total compassion over that. Once you're burned, you don't want to extend yourself again. But if we live that way in our life, we're going to just keep permanently shutting these doors, super gluing them shut, until we are a shut-up human being.
I know.
It hurts to be open, damn it. It hurts. You can get your heart broken every time, and you will. But do you want to live like a zombie? I don't. And if you choose to live like a zombie, then just don't harm anybody else. And God, any of us can understand that. I've had times in my life where I've just shut myself away and become a recluse. I know what it's like to just want to escape the world because it breaks your heart. But I might as well be dead if I don't pick myself up out of the damn dust and brush myself off after a proper time of grieving and risk it all over again. And it's a scary way to live, Jason, so I understand that too. It's not just, come on people now, smile on your brother, everyone, get together, try to love one another right now, peace, peace, flower, children, all that. It's not that easy. It isn't. And anyone who says so is bullshitting. It is. It's a risk every time to extend yourself, every time to love, every time to put your hand out to pull someone up, because they might pull you down, or you might slip. Even though they're lighter than you and you're pulling them up and doing good, you might slip and fall. But I'm ready to risk it. I'm not going to live any other kind of life. I might as well be a zombie.
I agree. I agree. I was going to say it's time for us to wrap up, and wanted to offer you a time, which I will, to offer something directly to the people that's your most important, or another important message. But you've been a constant message. The way you are and the way you live your life and what you're doing has really been a great example. And I hope that all of you out there think about what we've been talking about and take it personally. This show is meant for you. This isn't just for that person next to you on the seat or someone else, and everyone will get a little bit of it. All of it is specifically for you. I know that when I do these television shows, my thought and my hope is that every single person that watches it gets benefit. That everyone that's with me gets benefit. That we can constantly be learning who each other is and how we are and how we can interact. This television, which seems to many people to feel like it's impersonal, I don't find it impersonal. I find it very personal, and I think that this is my gift to you and to you. It's just important. It's important to know that everything is personal, I personally want to extend to you my warmest love and aloha, and And I hope that this journey helps you blossom in ways that you haven't even envisioned. And I hope your message is heard here and by our president and by everyone you touch along your journey.
Thank you.
Want to say anything to these guys? I see a flashing light, which means we are going to have time for credits.
Yeah. Usually you would make one of those 1960s dance motions, right, in the studio for wrap-up. Yes, at the end of the show, there will be an email address. Anybody who would like to send the story, their story only, not somebody else's. If you feel forgotten, these are the 3 things that I would like to hear from you. First of all, I don't want to know your name. And if it ends up in the email, I won't put it on the story. They're all going to be anonymous because, by the way, where one person is forgotten in a very specific and personal way, and they know nobody else on the planet could ever have gone through that, no, you're not alone. Your story is repeated at least once, probably more. You're a representative, and so by being anonymous, you will be telling the story of everyone else who has been forgotten in the same way that you have, believe me. First thing is, what is your story? How have you been forgotten? Second thing is, how could the government either help by adding something or stopping doing something that they're doing to have made sure that your situation did not happen or helped it? Third, how can we as human beings help each other so that no one will be forgotten in the same way as you have been again? So your story, 2 solutions, one to send to the president and then one for us to send to each other. To say, look, you know, if only we could reach out, if only we knew our neighbors just up and down our 1 block and had support, had people to talk to when we were feeling lonely, that we had no one to speak to. Let's start connecting again. No one should ever feel that they are isolated and alone. So that would be my message, is to, you know, if you have a story, send it there. And I guess the final message would be, don't be afraid to be open. If at all, we're all heroes. Any of us that open our heart to another person is a hero in that moment.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining me. Pleasure, always.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you again. Aloha.